most colors are hot, they turn orange. So now I'm just making sure this is warm, but not too hot. And I'm going to start, I would say just about a half an inch, a little more. I'm going to touch on and push away from me. I'm rolling away while my glass is in the flame. You can look from the side and you can see my glass is in the flame. My white is just below the flame, receiving the radiant heat, but it's not in the flame. And I'm not pulling too hard, and I'm slowly coiling on this turquoise. You can use this with any transparent and any light. I'm going to do the same thing for the leaf cane. So I'm pulling a little bit. I'm keeping my glass in the flame. So my glass is trailing on here. Okay. When I get to the end, I'm going to heat it up a little, kind of smooth it. Not let it get too hot. The white is the center, and this blue is going to be on the outside. Now, I can do a second row on here, but I want to make sure it's pretty smooth before I do a second row, or I'll capture air bubbles. So I'm just going it like this, and I'm making it. Okay. It should be smoother than that, but I'm too lazy to do it. And I'm going to put a second layer, I think. Yeah. If I'm pulling and it's not going, that means I have to stop a second and let the transparent turquoise is one of my favorites. Rolling it on. Working with the torch is so much calmer. You know, you can sort of stop, but there are so many principles that are the same. You got to keep your glass warm. Every once in a while, I might go up here and just give it a little touch here. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of get it nice and smooth. I can, but I don't have to get it super smooth. So now I'm going to punty up. Normally, if I have enough of this, in fact, I just need one. I think I'm going to use this. I'm going to put this on the end. Any transparent is good for pulling. Any opaque is not, oh, don't do that, Susan. See, but now, any opaque is not good for pulling. So now I've got this, and I'm going to attach it to the end. You can do something called a Maria, which is you can give it a little push to make it bigger. And heating the very end. So it's my handle, okay? Then I'm going to flip it around. And if you have we don't have a thing to cut it off. There's some tools. I'll get some of the nippers out here to cut it off. But in this case, I'm just going to flame cut it. When you put it in the flame and cut it off, it's called flame cutting. And you just sort of. And now I'm going to take this one and cover the other end. follow my rule. Sometimes if you have too much glass, you want to take it off, you can just grab it with the tweezers. You're not supposed to put your tools in the flame. My tools are all beat up because I put them in the flame. Don't do that. Okay. Now,
Go in the water?
yeah, that's why we're going to always have this bowl of water. I found 2 bowls here that will always be there. And it's good if you burn yourself, you can stick your hand in the water. You know, it's just a good thing to have. And I'm going to stick this on. Okay, so now I've got 2 handles. Now I'm going to heat this. So every once in a while you may have to adjust your flame a little. But you don't want it to be too orangey like this, because then it especially with the turquoise blues, it'll reduce it. When it's got too much orange, it's reducing. Notice that because you're 2 things. You're getting too close, and you've got too much propane going and not enough oxygen. And we're just not getting enough oxygen, so we're just going to have to, once we get tanks, I think it'll be better.
I just think I didn't have my flame down properly.
Yeah. But it's a learning process. Also notice, I am not working down here. I'm working up here. The flame is nice and hot up right about 1 inch away. If you get too close to the flame, it gets all sooty, and you risk the chance of dripping glass into the torch, and that ruins the torch. So notice that I'm just being patient. It's not like you don't rush it. Just get into the zen of it. People listen to music. I listen to NPR and get upset about the world, but let's see how it's starting to change. See how it's starting to get nice and smooth. And you want it to get nice. You kind of heat it in the center, but then once in a while go to the sides. You're kind of heating across the whole thing. And always turning. I go different directions, but always turning. Trying to keep it fairly straight. I want to keep that white in the center. You can't see it at this point. And you want to feel it like, if you can go like this, a little squishy, it's starting to get ready to pull. You have to know when it's ready to pull. Pulling stringers is really easy once you get the feel for it, but it's not an immediate thing. So now I'm getting close. I can tell it's nice and peachy. And when I feel like it's ready, I'm going to take it out and let it get a little skin on it. And then I'm going to start to pull. I usually turn my hands a little and pull. That's why I say just 1/2 inch or so, because unless you have a really wide waistband, you can't go too much further. Okay? So now, without burning myself, I have to plop it down here. And usually I take a little water. When I'm in my studio, I throw it on the floor and I whack it like that. So we need some nippers. We've got to remember to get those. Come on. There we go. Something's burning. Is it me? No. I think I was burning this purple stuff. Okay. I think I'll leave that on there. But I have my nippers. I nip this off and I make a little bead out of it, a little tiny bead. They always look good. I use them for space. So now I'm going to make a leaf cane the same way. I start with this, an okay. I'm going to heat it up. you get this, sort of warm, but you don't want it flopping around, you want it just warm, then you're going to encase it. Now there are other ways to encase, which I don't usually use, where you can just take a glob and push down, push down, push down, but I don't like that. All these things are in this book, Passing the Flame. So if you look through here, you'll see step by step and pictures and stuff on how to do it. The great thing about this book is all the pictures. So you can just... And once again, I'm keeping this warm at the top of the flame while I'm getting this hot enough. And I'm going to go through the flame just about a half inch. I roll away. It's very important you roll away from you so you can keep your glass that you're feeding on in the flame. And if it doesn't move, then just linger there a bit until it starts to move. And then just slowly melting it on. And just letting it stay in the flame. So supposedly we're supposed to get those oxygen tanks set up, but until Brennan does it, I don't know. So you're rolling it, and you're pushing down a little bit with the transparent color. And I make canes of all different, like this. Sometimes I put stripes on top of it to give little veins and stuff in it. But I use, different shades of green. I do multiple shades of transparent. I do yellow with a red on the outside, transparent. So it's an opaque in the center and a transparent on the outside. Okay. And sometimes you have to go back in and heat the rest of it just to make sure. It's just like the blowing. You've just got to make sure you're keeping everything warm. It's not, but it's a much more relaxed thing. Every once in a while, like the back end of something will pop off. So. Bigger flame. Okay, so once you get to the end, then the easiest thing to do is just to take your transparent and let it be your handle. I worry when this glass is sort of slow like this, did she mix up some and put some other COE in here? Because it shouldn't be so hard to melt. Okay, so now I'm using this as my handle. I put it on the end here. And I'm going to use them both as the handles and not change it. So I'm just going to heat this up. Once again, going both ways. this is getting hot enough.
Why is it that before you had to use a piece of clear rod and now you're not?
I decided that any transparent will be okay to pull, and I decided this green I'm just too lazy to transfer it. So in general, white is the worst one, but most other colors you can leave them the way they are, and let it get a skin, and then start to pull. If you don't let it get a skin, it just pulls out. A skin, like it's hot, take it out of the flame and let it rest for a moment, and then you just keep pulling. And now just inside. You can't flame cut it. Because they're a little hot. They cool down pretty quickly, but they're a little hot. Okay. So now, for my two newbies, stand right close because I'm going to make a basic bead. So I'm going to take a mandrel. You hold it like this. You're rolling it. The first thing you do is in your left hand, you should go back and forth in the heat, and you're just trying to get all the moisture out, and you're also trying to make it a little hot, just like a blowpipe. You need it to be hot enough to accept the glass, but it doesn't have to be screaming crazy hot, but you need to see a little red glow. Okay. Then I'm going to let it sit just below the flame. And I'm going to dance in. It's very important that you dance your color in. If you go straight in, it pops, it sticks. So then as soon as you see a red glow, though, you know that it's starting to be warm enough. And then notice my hand now. I'm holding it like a pencil. Notice my hand now is going parallel to the table. Most of the time you're parallel to the table. And I'm building up a ball. And in fact, I may even end up going backwards a little bit. I'm building up a ball. Some people like to get a great big huge glob of glass and put it in. But okay, here we go. So now I'm going to go, to make the bead, I go through the flame, touch the mandrel, roll the mandrel away from me while my glass is in the flame. The mandrel is slightly below the flame, and I'm rolling away and gathering glass onto here. If you want a longer, sometimes people just put a big glob of glass on here and then they can spread it out. Sometimes people actually travel along to make more of a barrel bead, but I think I'm just going to make a big round bead. So I'm putting my glass on. And don't pull, once you've got to this point you're okay, but when you first start, if you pull hard you'll break the bead release and then your bead will stick to the mandrel. So you want to go slowly, slowly, slowly. And you can, sometimes when you want to cut it off you just go through the flame. But I think I want a little bit more on here. So it's fairly big and globbed on here. Okay. Then I'm going to, I always take this guy and heat him up a little so there's not a long pointy tail, because that's really sharp, and when you go pick up the glass you can really give yourself some nice puncture wounds. So now I tend to keep the bead in my left hand, but most people it's more comfortable if you're right-handed to move it to your right hand. And if you're left-handed, you can do the whole thing in reverse if it feels good to you. It's not like out there where you have to not burn the wooden rail. You can do it however you want. So now this time, instead of heating below the flame, I'm heating my bead. My mandrel is pretty much, it's in the flame, but most of the bead is slightly above the flame. So I can see better. Down here you can't see it quite as much as you can see it up here. And also I'm not hooking the mandrel onto, the bead onto the mandrel. So I'm just, you take your time. It's all about gravity. There are all sorts of crazy tools for shaping and things like that, but really gravity is the best thing. So I go a little back and a little forward and a little backward, and I'm heating it up. And all of you who've made a couple beads know that you can keep working at it, and then all of a sudden it just rounds up. Now if you want to, you can use this marker to sort of shape it a little bit. Usually I think it gets worse when you do that. I'm going back to this one. You can also use this, then you can go like this and marble with that. But I like using gravity mainly. And I want this to spread out a lot more, so I'm going to keep heating it. Keep heating it. The classic torchwork bead is sort of a donut bead, they call, more than a true circle. See how it's starting to shape up now? And I'm always turning, always turning. And now it's in a pretty even place, so I could marble it a little more. That'll round it up a little more. And then I'm going to be ready to add some flowers in. So now it's getting into kind of a good shape. I like it. You can look at the end and see if it's symmetrical. But this is a black bead. So now before you add things to something, you want to let it cool down, but not get cold. So I can give it a little flash, but I don't want it to be screaming hot. I want it to hold its shape. So I'm going to take my blue rosemary and I'm going to find a spot, heat just the tip, and I'm going to just swirl it around. Okay, and then I think I'll put, you put as many as you want. I think I'll do 3 or 4.
So you're basically spiraling it around.
You just spiral it around. And sometimes it looks easy and sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it goes wonky. Gradually, the more you do this, notice that I'm not directly in the flame. I'm sort of on the side of the flame. And that's the secret. You touch it on and then you kind of keep your flame slightly to one side while you do your swirl. And now I've got all these on here. And now I'm going to heat them in. And sometimes you can take your hand marker and just flatten them a little. Sometimes you can just melt them until they go in. Now, I'm going to take my green one, and this is how you make leaves. It's a little different. So you heat up a little glob here, and you squash the glob on, and you pull this away. So you heat up a little glob, squash it on, pull it away. Heat up a glob, squash it on, pull it away. So this is a time when you can use a tool like this. You might decide, I'm just going to put a little, heat it up, put a little groove in it, heat it up, a little groove. So So this is when you can really play with all these things. And then you can leave it three-dimensional like this. See, there's no little leaves in between. You can leave it three-dimensional like that. Or you can heat the whole thing in. I think I'll heat it in a little bit more than this. I like it kind of textured where it's not completely pushed in. And you can use all these different tools, like I'm going to push that down a little bit. You know, so just explore this wonderful world of tools we have here. Let's see what else you can do with them. And that's these. It's very handy. They do all sorts of designs with them and stuff like that. You guys can look at them tomorrow and see what they are. Okay. This is what I'm not going to get it anymore. So then I let it, before you put it away, you're going to heat it. You can heat it up in the top of the flame, just cooling it down slightly. So that it cools down.